Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development and the Special Economic Zones Authority in Kenya recently launched a web portal where current and potential investors will access key information such as investment opportunities and incentives, investor roadmaps and facilities, as well as administrative and tax incentives. Speaking during the launch of the web portal, the Honorable Betty Maina, who is Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, said that the special economic zones are a key pillar for Kenya's industrialization agenda, value addition, and platform to leverage and catalyze private sector investment. She also added that the government will work closely with the economic zones to support the private sector, particularly, she said, companies in the manufacturing sector. Joining us to discuss further is Taiwo Adams, who is the head of Brokerage Services at Comercio Partners, and he joins me now to discuss further. Taiwo, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, in your view, how effective is a web portal in terms of Kenya's agenda here for their special economic zones?
I mean, I think it's very effective. When you look at the reason why they would have probably set it up, if you look at Kenya's FDIs from 2017, we saw about an increase of about 86%. And we saw in 2018 as well, we saw about an increase of 28%. But 2019, we saw a sharp decline of about, negative 18%. We didn't see I didn't see the figures for 2020, but I mean, your guess is as good as mine. With the whole COVID-19, I'm sure it was also down as well. So I'm sure with this portal, it will help to bring about, current investors and also potential investors to be able to communicate with the authorities as well in, key information, to be able to give them key information about investment opportunities in Kenya, investment horizon in Kenya, and how they can further, improve their services to the private sector as well. So I think it's a definitely good initiative for the government as well.
Great
and
stuff.
Could drive, investment into the country.
Fantastic. Kenya has 10 special economic zones. Is it too few or too many?
I mean, I can't say it's too few, obviously,
Yeah.
and then obviously it can't be too many. I mean, if you just cite a case of like China, where that's where this is, like, it's a very big thing in China, where this started around 1978. Already have over like 2,500 industrial zones, economic zones.
Wow.
And you see, ranging from industrial zones to, free trade zones, as well as export zones. And this has accounted for about 20% of China's GDP, also about 46% of the FDIs as well, and 60% of the exports as well. So you can also look at how it has also created about 30 million jobs. So I don't think any country that is looking to grow, economic growth can see this and say that it's too few. I think they would probably be looking for how they want to actually expand, those and grow those areas as well.
Fantastic. So you can never get enough of your special economic zones.
Yeah,
Kenya's Cabinet Secretary added that they'll be working closely with the special economic zones, and they want to focus particularly on manufacturing. Why is that?
Of course. I mean, manufacturing sector is a key sector for economic growth for any country. I mean, you just talked about how their focus is on industrialization, and I just mentioned the advantages that China has had, by taking this initiative and what they have done. So if you really look at it, you look at the potential for a manufacturing sector, how it can create jobs, is enormous. So you cannot underestimate the impact that the manufacturing sector could have. I mean, a country that is able to meet the local demand and also, export as well, could drive investments into the country as well, promote jobs and ultimately increase your external reserves as well, and make, provide for FX liquidity for your country, put less pressure on your reserves, and ultimately strengthen your currency as well. So I think she's definitely right about that.
Focus on manufacturing.
Yeah.
All right, I want to move from that to Kenya and Pakistan resolving their trade dispute. This is good news all around for both parties, yeah?
Of course, yes, definitely good news. I mean, if you look at both countries, they definitely have shared a good relationship over time. Pakistan is one of the biggest trading partners with Kenya. I think they're number 3. If you look at how their trade between both countries have grown as well, we're looking at $283 million from as at 2008, and now has grown to $700 million as at 2020. So you can't underestimate that relationship. And I think if you also look at, obviously favors Kenya more. If you look at how, in terms of the imports from Pakistan, how that's roughly about 199 million,
right,
compared to the export of to Pakistan about
500 million. Yeah.
So the trade surplus is definitely significant, but I still think it favors both of them. If you look at, Kenya, the agricultural sector makes up about 70% of their workforce. So you definitely look at how this would definitely help the local, majority of what they produce is tea and coffee and the like. So those local producers who produce tea would definitely benefit from this, and also the tea importers from Pakistan will also benefit from this. So I think it's a welcome idea for both of them, and I think it works for both of them as well. That
is, again, that's what you cited, $199 million imports from Pakistan, but yet they export $500 million export to Pakistan. That's Kenya. Inflation in Kenya, the rise that we saw August, I think we got a minute ago. Can you touch on, I guess, triggers?
Yeah, we saw a rise about, it rose to about 6.57% from 6.55% month on month. This was attributed to high food and commodity prices, transportation costs as well, and also like housing, electricity, and water costs as well. But it's important to note that the monetary authorities have also set an inflation target, which is in the band of 2.5% to 7.5%. So I think they're still very well within their bound, and there's no real cause for alarm yet. So I think they're still relatively fine in that space.
Great stuff. Sticking with inflation, because I know I think you cover fixed income as well. How do you play inflation numbers on the fixed income side?
You definitely have to look at inflation when you're playing with the fixed income space as well. If you look at if you're investing in fixed income and you're looking at where you want to consider where inflation is, that tells you whether you're at a negative rate of return or at a positive return. In the case of Kenya, you look at their long end bonds trading at around 13.5% to about 14%, and you look at your inflation at about 6%. So it will definitely drive investment to come into that space as well, compared to Nigeria.
Yeah, I was about to ask.
Our inflation is about 7.37%, and our bonds are trading around 12.5%. So we're literally investing at a negative return. So.
Does that push investors to have to look elsewhere?
So obviously,
in Nigeria's case, when you have that inflation?
It definitely could. You wouldn't get the kind of investment that you should be getting, obviously, when you look at that, because investors obviously want, return, better return for their money as well. So it will definitely bode well for a country to have, the inflation to not be so far away from where the fixed income rates are.
Taiwo Adams, Head of Brokerage Services at Comercio Partners. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming in.